Hello and good morning! Happy Monday sa lahat po ng mga nakikinig ngayong araw na to. And today, as promised, we have a special guest. Actually, he is one of my idol because yung passion niya to help the society is really that great na ang laki nung natulungan niya, and lalo na sa side ng education. Of course, hindi ko na pagtatagalin. He is a Filipino blogger, a philanthropist, new media advocate, online community organizer, founder of Yellow Boat of Hope Foundation Incorporation. Yan, alam niyo na kung sino siya. None other than, let's welcome Mr. J. Jaboneta. Yay! Hi, Jay.
Good morning, Orly, and good morning to everyone who is listening. Maraming salamat for having me this morning.
Yes, good morning, Jay. And again, thank you for saying yes to our invitation kasi alam ko talaga, nakikita ko rin sa mga posts mo yung love mo for books and how you apply them in your business and in your current work. So, of course, mamaya na ako magtatanong, hindi ko na pagtatagulin. Pero bago yun, kamusta ka na? And congratulations sa first baby mo. Puyat ka ba ngayong araw na to?
Thank you. Siguro naka 4 hours ako kagabi. But yeah, thank you very much. I don't think there's a way to describe, it's my first baby, my first son, si Kenzo. And yeah, very fulfilling, and yeah, I don't know how to put words into it, but siguro I'm very happy is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, definitely tayo mga tatay, masaya tayo sa mga anak natin. Una man yan, pangalawa man yan, or kung ilan man yan, sa anak natin, we're so happy. Of course, hindi ko na pagtatagalin. So the floor is yours, Jade. Take it away. Thank you. I'll see you later.
Thank you, Orly. Again, good morning, everyone. So I was very fortunate, to be invited by Orly. As he mentioned, I love reading books, and this is one of my favorite books. The one that I will be discussing this morning. It's called Make Time. Especially halos lahat sa atin ngayon naka-work from home arrangements, or may iba hybrid, blended, 'di ba? Minsan nasa office, minsan nasa bahay. And I think we will see more of these arrangements under maybe the next 18 months until the scientists find vaccine for COVID-19. So I think it's very important. Ang maganda talaga dito sa book na to by Make Time, well, it was written by really good authors, from Jake Knapp is from the creator of Google Meet. I'm sure marami sa inyo ngayon gumagamit nung video app na yon dahil naka-work from home arrangement nga tayo, and then John Seratsky. They were also authors of a design sprint book prior to Make Time. And for me, one of the reasons that I really love it is because I realized upon reading the book na medyo matagal ko na siyang ina-apply. So, let me proceed, no? Yung flow ng conversation. Next slide, please. Yung flow ng conversation today, next slide. I'll share with you some of my philosophy before going into the gist of the book. So, why do we read books? We read books because it's how people install new knowledge into their brains. So I have this mantra. Next slide, please. That um, we are surrounded by technology. We're surrounded by our gadgets, our mobile phones, our laptops, and regularly, for some of the apps that we are using, we update them daily or weekly and monthly. And then our gadgets, usually we upgrade, maybe once a year or once in 2 years, or for those that are really saving, maybe once in 5 years. But do we update our own personal mindsets, our mental models, our brain in a way? Do we update them as well? 'Di ba kung yung gadget nga kailangan i-update, 'di ba, para in tune siya with the needs of the times, dapat yung sarili din natin. So for me, maybe my 2 years na, I've been really advocating that people upgrade your life's operating system. And basically, it deals about two things, yung mindset natin and then yung mental models that we are using. It's very important na parang muscle ito, that's why I chose that icon, parang muscle ito that we need to exercise. 'Di ba? Kasi kung hindi natin yan i-exercise, the same with the muscles that we have in our body, hindi siya mahihina siya or magiging weak siya. Next slide, please. And we are facing a lot of challenges in this new age, and if you can see, we live in what they call a VUCA world, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. I think yung halos lahat sa atin na mahilig magbasa or are in the corporate or are involved in an organizational leadership, halos lahat sa atin are familiar with the concept ng business continuity. Pero itong COVID-19, sobrang bago siya. I think society is not prepared for a scenario wherein bawal lumabas, 'di ba? Bawal makipag-congregate sa ibang tao. We were ready. I'm working at the Innovation Lab, Nexus Innovation Labs of De La Salipa, and before this situation happened, we were facing, the eruption of Taal volcano, and I think mas prepared pa kami doon, and especially yung mga tao sa Calabarzon as opposed to itong COVID-19. And we can see it na even businesses are being pressured in terms of cost saving and cost reduction. So very important for us to be always upgrading the mental models that we are using. Next slide, please. So these are, for me, it's very important because these are about developing valuable skills in the 21st century. Next slide, please. And it's very important na we continuously upgrade yung mga processes natin and the way we do things. Next slide, please. And as you can see, very important ito na we take the concept of personal learning seriously. Because, in some way, I work in a school. I'm not saying that all schools don't teach this, but usually, when I went back, if I remember, back in college, hindi natuturo yung how to be productive, how to boost your confidence, di ba? And then how to sell. A large part of my corporate experience, I was working in sales, and di ba maraming no dyan, maraming no. So dapat motivated ka. And a lot of the models that I have been using and that has worked for me effectively is I read them on books. Because nga, the world, we live in a VUCA world, as they say, na the change is always there. And now it's accelerating because of technology. And so that's why dapat prepared tayo. And we take on, and I'm glad that you're watching today because yun nga, it's very important for us to upgrade, to continuously upgrade and update the mental models that we are using. Next slide, please. And I'll go through maybe three of my inspirations here. Si Elon Musk, who is the founder of Tesla, they just launched yesterday, and he said, I think it's possible for ordinary people to choose to be extraordinary. And for me, very important yun na for you to decide for yourself that you can do something great. Ako, I never imagined growing up in Cotabato City more than 30 years ago that I would now be in Manila and I would have founded, several organizations, not just Yellow Boat. But it has to start from a personal belief on your skill sets and capabilities. And of course, always read books. Next slide, please. And for me, this question by Steve Jobs, I really love this. And the question is, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And he said, pag consecutive days na the answer is no, he knows that it's time to change jobs, or it's time to change what he's doing. So yung gist ng presentation ko this morning is about really how can you take back uh, productive time to focus on doing what's important to you. And lastly, next slide please, I'd like to quote si Alvin Toffler. And sa school system, sa education system, we're using his quote extensively because before, yung illiterate is those who cannot read and write. But today, the illiterate is those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. As you can see, minsan sinasabi nila yung isang bagay, but even with COVID-19, di ba, maraming, nung una, hindi mag-wear ng mask, hindi kailangan mag-wear ng mask, sunod, kailangan mag-wear ng mask. So it's very important for us to be always, in a way, updated. Kasi kung hindi tayo updated, if we don't upgrade the mental models or the things that we know, then we would be behind. And, we would, in a sense, become illiterate. Next slide, please. And for me, so I'm going into the book na, no, which is a really good book. And for me, marami kasing components yung pag-make mo ng time, 'di ba? Yung pag-make mo ng time that will focus on doing productive work or on what matters. And for me, yung one of the books that I would recommend reading as well, along with Make Time, is Deep Work by Cal Newport. Good morning, Miss Anne. Yung Deep Work is actually I would say Cal Newport was inspired from an old story. Remember nyo, I think I was still in high school then, yung may parang, uso pa yung chain mail noon, may parang kumalat na story about, di ba, na ano yung uunahin mo ilagay sa jar? Do you put the sand first? Or yung big balls or bowling balls, or in this case, yung sa photo, golf balls, di ba? The same siya with life. We have to put the important things first. Meaning, ano ba yung mga mahahalagang bagay? Kasi kung inuna mo yung mga maliliit, which is the sand, pag inuna mo yon, wala nang lugar yung golf balls or yung bowling balls, yung mga malaking balls. But if you put in the more important things, so hopefully this morning, I'll be able to share with you some tips from the book Make Time on how to do productive work. Next slide, please. And lastly, my other recommended book, they are by the same authors of Make Time, by Jake Knapp and John Seratsky. Yung Sprint is about prototyping. How do you, and especially ngayon, I would recommend this dahil especially yung mga negosyante sa inyo, yung mga SMEs and freelancers, it's very important for you to come up with solutions and quickly iterate and prototype. So this book is actually really good. And ako, I love authors who speak from experience. So si Jake Knapp, matagal siya sa Google. He created Google Meet and a host of other products. I think he was part of the Gmail team. And the same with John Seratsky. And before writing their books, they were part of Google Ventures, which was parang the innovation lab of Google. Next slide, please. So I hope I excited you. So let me get into the book, sort of the book report. Make time is a very simple concept, and I realized na medyo matagal ko na siyang pinapractice. Not I wasn't using, maybe the same words as the authors. But as you can see, it's a four-step process: highlight, laser, reflect, and energize. So let's get into the details. Next slide, please. For me, make time. Actually, very parang kung isipin mo, that's why, I really love this book. Parang ang simple niya. Pero actually, if you get it right, if you are really able to make time to the most important thing, if you are able to focus, to carve out that time to do your most important work, you would become really effective at your job, and you would have, I would say, a more balanced life. Because yun, very important for us, especially ngayon, maraming distractions, maraming negativity, maraming, in a way, yung minsan parang we become prisoners of our technology, di ba? Parang pag may notification, we respond agad. So for me, make time is really about creating more time in your day for the things you care about. And for me, very important ito because, again, as mentioned earlier, I have a new kid, I have a baby, and I want to be able to maximize our time since naka-work from home tayo, while at the same time my time with him, while at the same time, and of course with my family, but at the same time managing work deliverables. So again, make time is a four-step process that doesn't end. It just keeps on repeating. It starts with highlighting. Choose a single activity to prioritize and protect in your calendar. Si Tom Peters, who's another good author that I love, he says na if you want to know a person, check his calendar. Dahil dun mo makikita sa calendar niya kung saan niya dinedevote yung time niya araw-araw. And you'd know kung ano ba talaga yung priority niya as opposed to doon sa verbally sinasabi niya. That was a really good tip. And I realized, kung hindi mo i-decide kung ano yung i-work on mo tomorrow, and the next week, the next month, the next 6 months, the next year, you will be, yung gagawin mo is kung ano yung papagawin sa'yo ng ibang tao, not necessarily by force, but meaning, yun nga, you'll be reactive to others instead of proactive na to achieve what you want to do. Second is, sorry, may wrong spelling pala, laser. These are specific tactics to stay laser focused. And then third is energize, and then lastly reflect. For me, very important siya, no, na ang concept dito na very important for me is yung highlight, because that is really where you decide what you want to focus on. Ano ba yung pinaka-importante mo na work? So like in my role sa Innovation Lab, a big chunk of my work is about how do I create new programs? How do I create new programs so that at Dela Salipa, we're able to build a platform, an enabling environment so that the students and faculty can create solutions to real-world problems. So yun, kailangan ma-decide mo muna yun, because if you don't decide what your most important work is, how will you really spend your day as opposed to magre-react ka lang ng magre-react pag may pumasok na email. So let me get into highlight. Next slide, please. Yung kung makikita ninyo, again, it's a process, no? And then it doesn't end. Next slide, please. Highlight, and you can start tonight. It's about asking yourself, what do I want to be the highlight of my day? And for me, kailangan i-extend mo, not, and maganda dito sa discussion ko, I'm gonna input some of my personal tips, some of my personal habits. Yung critical kasi dito is, di ba, when you are working for a company, or if you have your own business, you should take the time to see ano ba dapat yung activity that you are, parang if you're familiar with the concept ng Pareto principle, yung 20% ng activities mo or ng time mo actually generate 80% of the results. So in a day, and there is emerging research on this, they say na 4 hours of your day, yung either kung morning person ka or late person ka, kung morning person ka, so dapat sa umaga yan, Kung late person ka, maybe sa hapon or sa gabi. Ako kasi medyo late talaga ako dati. Ngayon, night owl talaga ako. So minsan, I do my most important work sa gabi. But you have to devote 4 hours of your day. And kung sabihin natin, meron tayong 8 to 10 hours sa work, 4 hours you should carve out to devote on kung ano ba talaga yung critical sa trabaho mo. So in my case, I do a lot of suggestions and recommendations on on how we can create a culture that is innovative. So very important that I carve out 4 hours na nag-iisip ako, and then I write them down, and then I convert it into a presentation that people can easily understand. So for me, yung even though highlight in the book make time suggest na yung it's answering what do I want to be the highlight of my day, you have to assess it in the context ng ano yung deliverables mo or in your personal life, ano ba yung gusto mo ma-achieve? And then carving that time out, it has to become a sacred time and you have to devote it. Kung makita niyo yung sa jar na concept, di ba? In a day, you have 24 hours, you have to prioritize yung 4 hours doing yung pinaka-important na work as opposed to, responding to Facebook notifications or to Instagram notifications or yung mga social media na notifications. You have to carve it out. Next slide, please. So highlight is, if you can see, it's really about, and ako, siguro I'll just share this quote from Abraham Lincoln. No? Sinabi niya, yung former US President, sinabi niya na, if I'm going to cut a tree, and I have 6 hours to do it, the first 5 hours, I'm gonna devote to sharpening the axe. And then the other hour to chop down the tree. So the same yun ng concept sa highlight. You cannot go through your day effectively or productively kung hindi mo dinecide the day before. Ano ba yung iha-highlight mo? Saan ba yung ifo-focus mo? And then one thing I want to point out from the book is highlights usually take 60 to 90 minutes. So, siguro pag medyo magaling ka na, madali na lang. 'Di ba? Maybe it takes you 5 minutes to 10 minutes to decide ano yung kailangan mong gawin bukas. But very important before you go to sleep, ako that's what I do, before you go to sleep, you decide ano ba yung deliverables mo for tomorrow. And this works not just for professional, for working roles or deliverables, but also in your personal life. 'Di ba? Kung kailangan mo magpalengke, ngayon very important 'yan dahil lahat sa atin medyo delikado na mag-congregate or pumunta sa supermarket na maraming tao. So very important na the day before or days before na plano mo ng mabuti. Next slide, please. And so for me, this is one sample from the book. No, I'm not gonna go. There are 87 tips from the book, so I'm not really gonna belabor all the 87 tips. But this is one example. If you can see yung drawing, that's one example na, di ba, yung meaning adjustable naman yung day mo. But in choosing your highlight, for me, very important, yun, again, this is the first step in making time is choosing your highlight. And as you can see, merong mga examples that are shown here. So, syempre, very important. Ako, I would say na meron akong photographic memory. So, usually, hindi ko na siya nira-write down. But syempre, when you're starting out, mas maganda siguro kung i-write down mo yung naisip mo na highlight for tomorrow or for the next week, for the next few days. So, and then pwede rin na kung hindi mo natapos, then do yesterday again. So, these are some, and you can search about this. Yung might do is you can, maybe meron kang dream list, you can write it down, and then you can assign months when you're gonna do it. Yung burner list, yun yung parang yung important na sections in your life. So, di ba, ano yung importante sa family? Parang siya, stove siya, di ba, na may 4 na burner na family, personal life, work life, health. So, you can go around many ways in choosing your highlight. But it's very important, again, to take charge. Ano ba yung pinaka-importante sa'yo? Because if you don't make time for choosing ano yung importanteng bagay or gagawin mo, you will have a hard time achieving your goals. Next slide, please. And under highlight, it's important. Again, I keep this is this keeps repeating in the book na make time for your highlight. Parang yung sinabi ko na quote, and for me, yun yung na-remember ko talaga when I read this. Very important yung sinabi ni na quote ni Abraham Lincoln, 'di ba, na if I'm gonna chop a tree, I'm gonna spend more time sharpening the axe. So actually making time is about this. Yung sharpening the axe mo na activity is about making time for your highlight. Next slide please. I hope okay pa kayo. Um, Next slide. The key to getting into laser mode. So from highlight, we go into laser mode, is to create barriers to distraction. Next slide, please. And for me, very important itong yung if you can see yung flow ng steps, once na na-highlight mo na, then the next day or today, you'd know na saan ifo-focus yung effort mo. Next slide, please. If you can see, laser is really about being in the flow. And it's important for you to create an environment, especially lahat sa atin, very important ito ngayon. We're balancing, and especially sa akin, I can really, sort of speak from experience about this hard balance, yung since I have I have a baby who is a very newborn, 2 weeks pa lang siya. Minsan mahirap struggle, 'di ba? Kasi every 2 hours nagigising siya, kailangan mag-milk, mag-breastfeed. So very important na yung time that I'm free, I'm able to devote it towards achieving yung highlight ko, kung ano man yung activity that I decided. In my case, yung pag-review ng mga proposals, pag-create ng programs, I have to really carve that time out na 4 hours a day. I have to be able to sit down and jot down and create those modules, create those PowerPoint presentations so that hindi sayang yung the rest of the day. Kasi minsan, ganyan, kailangan kumuha ng ganito, kailangan bumili ng ganito, kailangan mag-prepare ng meals. So very important na, especially now na naka-work from home tayo dahil maraming distractions, hindi lang social media. Next slide, please. So, some of the tactics under tawag dyan, laser is about, so kung makita ninyo, yung focus very important. Because, and ako ito ang recommended ko na 4 hours na siya, hindi siya 4 hours pa rin na straight, 90 minutes you work, 30 minutes you rest, and then 90 minutes ulit. And then 1.5 hour yun, and then 30 minutes ulit na rest. Very important kasi na you take some rest, and yung Energized, I'll discuss that. But kung makikita ninyo yung chart sa taas, if we're doing, di ba, if we're sitting down, we're trying to do our work, and then nagpapadistract tayo, email, or naka-on yung TV, nanood tayo ng TV, and then nag-Facebook tayo, hindi mo na bibuild yung momentum to create what you really wanna create. And especially sa akin na case, I can speak from experience, pag inaalis ko lahat niyan, sinasilent ko yung phone ko. Kasi kung hindi nga, magsisimula ka ulit. That's the concept. So sustained attention is more productive and rewarding than split attention. Next slide, please. But of course, I'd like to offer a word of caution. There might be people who thrive in chaos, who thrive in a distraction-filled day, and good for them. There are always exceptions. And minsan ako, I would say I can do that. But most of the time, you'd really require that quiet time. You'd really require that space. Di ba? Kaya nga mas maganda kung medyo meron ka talagang work from home office na space sa bahay. So the first tactic that they talk in the book is be the boss of your phone. And for me, this is probably the hardest thing for us to do. Won't you agree? Dahil minsan, especially ngayon na wala tayo sa office, minsan, di ba, na nagiging addicted talaga tayo sa gadgets natin. So this is very important, and that's why I love this book so much, because it tells you out there, and it comes from really applied authors, people who have applied this theory into action. And it's important for us to when we carve out that time for doing our most important work, kailangan i-alis natin yung mga distractions sa while we're doing the work. So some of the other suggestions is yung iba medyo extreme na is to log out para you won't receive the notifications sa social media. Yung iba, they clear their home screen, and then yung iba, they leave their devices. There's advice in the book na usually pag matutulog na sila, they leave their phones sa, I think, and for me, this is very hard to do. Yung authors, they would leave their phones sa sala, sa living room, para hindi nila dala-dala sa bedroom. Next slide, please. So the first tactic is to be the boss of your phone. Second is stay out of infinity pools. So ito, I struggled applying this, yung skipping the morning check-in. Usually sa atin, pagkagising pa lang, anong una natin ginagawa? When now we're surrounded by all this technology, ang una natin minsan ginagawa, like ako, I'm guilty of this, I would open my work email agad. Pagkagising ko ng umaga, yun agad. And minsan pag bad news, di ba, parang you get into a bad mood as well. So very important pala na, again, we can take charge, we can be the boss of our gadgets, of technology. It's important na yung first thing, yung habit mo, first thing in the morning when you wake up, is you take charge, di ba, na hindi agad yung social media. Kasi that's why it's called an infinity pool. Kasi di ba, meron kang pinanood na viral video or meme, and then may sinundan ulit na binasa ka ulit na viral. And then until you realize you've been spending an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours doing really nothing important. So very critical ito, no, na we take charge of our gadgets and stay away from infinity pools. Next slide, please. Second is slow your inbox. So I think you can read it naman. Ang main point ko dito na gustong i-share is yung sa inbox. I schedule time of the day where I will reply. Usually, if it's not first thing in the morning, di ba, after, hindi naman first check-in na, but first thing in the morning before I do the 4 hours work, or after I've done. Actually, sa book, kung makita mo ang suggestion nila, you do it after you've done all the work, later in the afternoon. Of course, again, do not be stressed if hindi mo kaya to gawin lahat. And some of this you might not actually need to do. The whole point of the book is how do you make time to do your most important work. So very important, 'di ba, na yun nga, hindi ibig sabihin na porke may notification kailangan mo nang sagutin. Minsan you can carve that time out na pang-answer lang ng email. And ako, when I realized that I can do that, 'di ba, kasi before para akala natin pag mayroong ganyan kailangan sagutin mo agad. But actually, when you give it some time of the day, that when you answer email, it made me realize that I can think more. Di ba? Pwede namang i-read mo lang pero hindi mo sinagot agad, but you're able to process and then to respond effectively. Next slide, please. The other tactic is make TV. Ito, matagal ko nang na-practice ito. I don't remember, the last time that I've really craved watching TV. Of course, napalitan nyo ng phone and tablets or laptop. But very important for those of you na mahilig manood ng TV, na when you want, especially ngayon, and ako kaya I chose to comment, to do a book report on this book, because I think nasa home tayo, di ba? We're working from home, most of us. And yung iba, baka nanood na lang ng news the whole day instead na nag-work. So very important for us to carve time talaga and to see TV as a treat, di ba? Na hindi siya dapat 24 hours a day we're in front of the TV. If you are very good at managing your skills on this, pwede yun nasa background lang yung TV, but don't be distracted. Next slide, please. The other tactic is find flow. And there's actually a good book, I think, on the next slide about this, yung sa find flow. It's very important na yung pag-carve out mo kasi ng time of the day, and ako, recommended ko, and you can search about this online, yung 4 hours, when you get into that flow na tatapusin mo talaga yung kailangan mo tapusin, because nabibuild mo siya eh. Yung first hour, napag-isipan mo siya. Second hour, susulatin mo na siya. Third hour, di ba, i-adjust mo or baka may wrong spelling, may wrong grammar, and then yung fourth hour, you can now present it to your boss or to your colleagues. So very important that you get into that flow. Next slide, please. And I would also recommend this book by a famous author. Actually, matagal na tong book na to by Mihaly. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. But next slide, please. He actually popularized this concept of being in the flow, because you need some, parang the same yan siya sa sasakyan, 'di ba, na hindi naman pag turn on mo ng engine, pwedeng 250 kilometers per hour ka na agad. So the book is called Finding Flow, the psychology of engagement with everyday life. If Jay is hearing me, can we go to the next slide? Yan. So if you can see, it's a simple concept, but kaya minsan yung struggle natin, 'di ba, parang the same yan siya with exercise, I would say, 'di ba, yung initial stages mahirap, but once you get the hang of it, madali na lang sa'yo, hindi ka na napapagod. The same with learning any skill set. Kailangan you have to go through that period of parang nasa-challenge ka, mahirap siya, eventually you'll find the flow and it will be easy for you. Wala naman sa atin, lahat sa atin started from a place of, in a way, ignorance, na hindi natin alam to. So very important for you to find flow. Medyo ang isang comment ko lang sa book na to, that's why you really need to take time to read this book. Medyo heavy siya on research and studies, but it's really a good book if you want to see how to be more productive in life. Next slide, please. So one of the other tactics, again, very important yun, magkaka-connect ito lahat, is to stay in the zone. So if you can see, very important, medyo, how would I call this? Medyo counterintuitive yung isang aspect dito. I wanna point out yung B board, but alam nyo, yung some of the best ideas that I generate in my work and in my life, I actually thought of them while in the shower, while washing the dishes, while doing laundry. So, very important I think yung dito sa laser tactic na dito na that's why sinasabi ko kanina na yung 4 hours, you carve it out na 90 minutes doing work, 30 minutes rest, because it's important for you to get unstuck. And yun, meron suggestion dito, take a day off. So very important to maximize our weekends. Maybe it's time for us to learn as well how to manage our bosses. Yung isang challenge ngayon with work from home arrangement is parang nawala yung concept ng time. So I've been in meetings until 10 p.m., until 9 p.m. And for me, it's very important for us to realize that we need rest. And actually, kung makita ninyo dun sa Make Time Framework, yung Energized is nasa base siya. Because very important for you to take time as well. While you're in the zone, it's important to get energized so that you can continue being in the zone. Next slide, please. So, again, very important yung pag-focus doon sa most important work. Next is reflect. Next slide, please. So, yung pag-energize, yung sinasabi ko kanina, it's very important for you to be able to keep refresh or fresh in your day. And kung makikita ninyo when you read the book, maganda siya kasi they cited a lot of studies. For example, when is the best time for you to drink coffee? And yung sinasabi nila, kailangan walang coffee, especially for those na, like sa akin, napansin ko yun, kaya ako night owl siguro for a long time, because I drink coffee all the way up to 4 p.m. or minsan 6 p.m. And usually sa research that being shown na 6 hours bago mawala sa system mo yung caffeine. So actually they talked about that in the book na very important for you to know how do you keep your energy at a level na you're not bored or you're not struggling or you're not stressed. So kung makikita ninyo, when you highlight, when you laser focus on the work, important for you not to forget how to keep yourself energized. Next slide, please. So there are, I think, a few tactics under Energized. Number one is keep it moving. So ngayon, since I have a new kid, this is very easy for me. I'm always on the move, di ba? Because of taking care of the baby, and then kailangan niya daily may sunbath na time. But for those of us, di ba, ngayon parang there's incentive for us not to go out. But it's very important to continue exercising, because it allows us. And if you read the book, I'm not gonna talk about that here. If you read the book, they've really done a lot of research. When is the best time to do your exercise? How long? What are the things that you can do? Walking is very important for one. Ngayon, maraming magbabike to work. So maybe that will help our productivity. Next slide, please. So very important for you to, when you do your highlight, the day before or the week before or the month before, to put into consideration ano yung energizing tactics. And then of course, part of the suggestions around energizing is eating real food. And if you can see, there's a growing movement globally around green food or around eating real food, di ba, na hindi na dapat kumakain ng maraming fast food because yung processed foods have a lot of chemicals that make us groggy, that make us stressed, or that parang keeps us our system stressed. So yung isang comment sa book, I know this is hard. This is not easy for everybody, but we can try our best. So very good suggestion dito, eat like a hunter-gatherer. So yung sinasabi dito, dapat maraming vegetables. Yung concept nila dito, Central Park your plate. Di ba kung makita niyo yung Central Park, ang daming green and then konti lang yung hindi green sa park. So dapat daw yung plate mo ganun din, maraming green. And then counterintuitive, stay hungry, 'di ba? Because kung sobrang busog mo naman, minsan inaantok ka. Ako ay that sometimes happen to me after lunch, 'di ba? Pag medyo ang dami mo nakain. Now, it's very important for us to take this seriously because we're at home. We might be binge eating because we feel naka-shorts tayo, 'di ba? We don't really have a lot of we don't really have a lot of parang tawag dyan, we don't really have a lot of disincentive not to eat kasi nasa bahay lang tayo, malapit tayo sa ref natin. So it's very important for us to take charge of the food that we eat. Next slide, please. The next tactic by under Energize is ito. Nandito na yung sinasabi ko kanina. The authors went through all the studies about coffee, and yung for me, yung pinaka-importante na study is about yun nga na 6 hours. The caffeine stays in your system for 6 hours. So very important, especially doon sa mga sensitive sa caffeine, na don't drink. Ang advice nila, don't drink after lunch because it stays in your system all the way to dinner and then might affect your sleeping pattern, your night. So again, very important. Next slide, please. Go off the grid. So this is part of the whole plan for your life, yung get woodsy. This is harder to do for us. In Lipa, I love walking through the campus because we have a big campus at De La Salle Lipa. But, in Metro Manila, it's hard to go in the forest, to be with nature. So, very important pa rin ito na balikan. Kasi nga, di ba, if we look back at our history, we were hunter-gatherers. And our system is looking for nature. Yung isang counterintuitive dito, ngayon naka-headphone ako, is leave your headphones at home. Di ba kasi minsan yung, ngayon I actually found it really amazing because wala masyadong, I don't know now, dahil nag-GCQ na tayo, But 'di ba before nung wala talagang masyadong movement outside, that you can actually hear the birds chirping again at 5 a.m. So, yun for me very important for us to breathe in nature because it energizes us. 'Di ba parang yung concept ng may ibang scene naman. Kasi kung laging nasa harap ka lang ng laptop, laging nasa harap ka lang ng monitor, na nasi-stress yung eyes natin, and of course that affects our thinking power. Next slide please. I think this is I'm in my last few slides. Make it personal. So very important for you to spend time with your tribe. So yung I think it's very important for you to share your struggles. If you have struggles at work, at home, share it with your tribe, share it with your friends, 'di ba? Kasi it energizes you, it gives you na a feeling na hindi ka mag-isa sa buhay, 'di ba, na maraming pwedeng tumulong sa iyo. Yung isang good concept dito, and maybe now because we're constantly with family, is eat without screens. Now, this is very hard, but I think it's a good practice. And as much as possible, kasi ang tendency daw dito, based on research, is pag we're eating with our screens, parang we don't get to enjoy, and we enjoy the moment of eating. And then usually pag distracted tayo with our phones, we eat too fast. So, 'di ba, ang kailangan ng katawan natin is kailangan actually, 'di ba, yung old concept, dapat i-chew mo yung food properly. So very important for us to spend time doing eating without screens. Next slide please. Sleep in a cave. So ito yung one of the hardest things then that is suggested in the book, is make your bedroom, mayroon siyang nilagay ganun, a bedroom, meaning dapat yung bedroom is really for sleeping, for taking rest. Hindi siya dapat for doon ka pa rin mag-work. I know this is hard, especially for some of us na maliliit yung mga bahay, but maybe you can devote a space kung saan yung office space mo, and then really your bed for sleeping. Sinabi nila na if you're working on your bed, then uh, it doesn't make your body aware na pag sleeping time na, for sleeping time lang yung bed. So mas maganda that you're really working especially naka-work from home tayo, 'di ba, in a parang desktop pa rin na para at least the bed is really for sleeping lang. Kasi if nasanay ang katawan natin na we're working from our bed, then ang hirap na for the body to adjust when it's time for sleeping. Next slide please. So again, very important, no, and yung while you're doing the three main steps, yung highlight, laser, and reflect, it's important that you keep energizing yourself. Next slide please, which brings me to reflect. I remember I used to work for Procter and Gamble, and meron kaming concept na ORLN, objectives, results, learning, and next steps. So actually, some of these concepts are as old as time. So, 'di ba, yung objectives, parang yun yung highlight mo. Yung results, yung laser focus mo, ano yung nagawa mo during the day. And then yung next steps, so what are your learning? So in make time, yun yung concept naman ng reflect. When you have highlighted your day, when you've laser focused on your work, when you've kept yourself energized, the last step, in a way, though it's a cycle, no, it repeats itself the next day or the next month. Very important for you to observe and measure kung naging successful ba yung ganito mong ginawa. So for me, again, as I mentioned, a lot of us read books, but a lot of us don't apply these learnings. So very important for us na when we went through a day, kung we weren't happy with how our day went, it's important for us to take a step back and see what worked and didn't work, and then adjust. So akong ginagawa ko dati, especially with my coffee example, before kasi I used to drink all the way to 4 p.m., 6 p.m. But when I started following the recommendation in the book, di ba, na don't drink after lunch, na minsan parang counterintuitive kasi mas kailangan natin siya. Pero yung pala, the caffeine stays in the body for 6 hours. So, but when I started doing it, it actually allowed me to sleep earlier. So, very important for us to test, to experiment, as it's mentioned here, because that's the, and give it a few days, di ba? Hindi naman na parang first day, hindi nangyari, so you gave up already. So, but it's very important to reflect on what worked and what didn't work so that you can continue applying what worked and you can adjust what didn't work. Next slide, please. So there's actually one example from the book on how you can, parang one pager siya on what it looks like to reflect on how your day went. So yung laser and energize, you can assess yung level that you were able to do, and of course yung parang learning and next steps that you want to take after your day. Next slide, please. So again, very important for you to choose a priority, highlight. Laser is about beating distraction. And ako, very important na, ako since mahirap, di ba, na iiwan yung phone sa ibang lugar, what I do is really just turn off the sound of the phone so that when I'm writing down, when I'm doing my most important work, I'm able to focus. And then, of course, it's very important for you to energize and lastly reflect. So that's it for Make Time. Before I end, next slide, please. I'd like to share with you, I think there are 3 key lessons that I learned from here. It's get off the busy bandwagon. So hindi ibig sabihin, ako, this is a really good point, hindi ibig sabihin na porke busy tayo, we're being productive. Again, very important na yung pagka-busy natin is we're really doing important work, yung kailangan natin ginagawa. And it's not about answering emails. It's not, unless maybe yun yung work mo, di ba, kung customer service support ka. But for many of us, it's not about, replying to messages online. It's about creating, it's about creating projects, programs, or it's about making recommendations. It's about doing your most important work as opposed to parang reacting to distractions. And Make Time is a 4-step framework, but it is a continuous framework. And then, again, I think yung book, I highly recommend it. It's a quick start guide to make time in your life for the most important things. Next slide, please. Again, I'd like to end with this. I think I'm on my last 3 slides. Ask yourself to guide you in choosing your highlight. Ask yourself these 3 key questions. What experience do you want to have in this lifetime? Second, how do you want to grow? And then lastly, how do you want to contribute? And structure your day around answering these questions, di ba? If you're not happy with your work, then maybe it's time, as Steve Jobs, as I highlighted earlier, si Steve Jobs, sinabi niya pag ilang araw na that the answer is no, then maybe it's a sign that you need to change your job, or maybe it's to take on a new perspective, di ba, in your job. Baka naman there are other skill sets that you wanna exercise or that you wanna use in your job, then talk to your boss. But for me, it's very important for you to lead a productive life and effective life, to answer these questions. What experiences do you want? Kasi kung hindi, the others, di ba, the other people that you might not necessarily want what they want for you will be the ones who will decide kung ano yung experiences that you will be having in this lifetime. So it's important for you, I hope, na after this session, you take charge of your life, you take charge of your time. There's a saying now, we can always make money, but we cannot make time. We cannot create time. Lastly, how many times do you need to reflect? Every day, di ba? As much as you can. Next slide, please. So for me, this is a blueprint for living, di ba? Your greatness comes when you focus not on building a career, but you're finding your quest. So embrace what you set out to do. Now go on and break some rules and change the world. And good luck. Lastly, good luck in your journey. If you want to learn more, the authors actually created Make Time that blog, where they put more resources about the book. So thank you. I hope I created this for 30 minutes, but it went for an hour. And I'm glad to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
All right, Jay, thank you.
Thank you,
We're so
medyo
we're
nag-overtime yata.
No, it's okay. Nobody's complaining. We're so blessed by your presentation. I'm so blessed. Sigurado ako lahat ng listeners natin are blessed. Ito tanong ni Arcega Chris. I am learning and reflecting again. I am using notebook, Google Calendar, and agenda book. What else can we use in this situation, COVID-19 pandemic? Para namin lang ginagamit.
Thank you, Ma'am Chris, for tuning in this morning. Ma'am Chris is one of our teachers sa De La
Ayun.
Salipa. One of our very productive, I would say, teachers in De La Salipa.
So what's your answer on that? May ibang recommendation ka ba, Jay? Sa tanong niya?
Well,
May other
well,
tools pa ba?
actually, for me, very, I don't know, I'm very minimalist dito sa approach ko sa making time. Actually, would you believe this? When I share with this with my friends, natatawa sila. I actually just use when I write down my highlight, I just use the draft sa email, and then pag nagawa ko na siya, I email it to myself that, check, nagawa ko na siya. As simple as that. I also use Google Calendar to set time. Like yung 4 hours, kina-carve out ko siya sa Google Calendar para at least walang magba-block ng walang instruction na papasok. And then I think very important yung Energize. Some of us forget. Ako, very important to stay hydrated. Especially ngayon, I think we're going to the rainy season, but during the summer, 'di ba, sobrang init. So very important for you to actually be cognizant na you need to be hydrated. And then yun, very important. Ako, I can't live without coffee, pero at the moderate level siya. Kasi yun nga, pag nasobrahan naman, di ka makakatulog sa gabi. But I know there are people na kahit na naka-anim na kape, nakakatulog pa rin sila agad. So it depends per person. So it depends on your circumstance. So, but I think yun, ang very important dito that I'd like to point out is really more the use of the mental tool, which is yung highlighting. Kasi yun nga, if you don't set your priority for the day, for the next day, for the next week, then you'll be responding to notifications as opposed to taking charge and doing things that you want to do.
How about yung follow-up question ni Chris? Is any thoughts about the generation's baby right now? Yung multitasking. Yan.
Well, I think it's hard for us not to multitask, no? But having said that, I've seen actually the research na saying na you need to, yung sinasabi ko kanina pa, na you need to carve out 4 hours. Kasi may momentum yun na hindi pwedeng, hindi ka ganun ka-productive kung paputol-putol. Di ba, kunyari, may sinusulat kang proposal. If every 10 minutes you allow yourself to look at social media or to be distracted by TV, especially now since we're working from home, edi mawawala ka ulit sa thought mo, di ba, dun sa process mo. So very important, I think sometimes we need to multitask. Ako minsan, actually, sa totoo lang, may mga meetings ngayon, dala-dala ko yung baby, pinapatulog ko. Sometimes hindi natin siya maiwasan, wala pa kasi kaming yaya. But yun, hindi mo siya maiwasan. But as much as possible, the least distraction when you're doing your most important work.
Yun.
Thank you, Ma'am Chris.
Yan. So, additional ko lang doon sa sagot ni Jay kasi yung pinagdebate yan sa isang na-attendan kong discussion about multitasking. Actually, we're not multitasking. We cannot do naman multitasking. What we're doing is shifting focus. Kasi yung word na multitasking, 2 o 3 trabaho ginagawa mo at the same time. Pero in truth daw, we cannot do that. We're just shifting focus. Yun yung sinasabi ni Jay na laser focus, no? Pwede, kung mag-shift ka ng focus, siguro hindi mo makatatapos yung isang bagay na highlight mo. Ang gusto ko lang doon sa sinabi mo, if you want to know the person, check his calendar by Tom Peters. So, napaka-powerful nun. Among all the concepts, Jay, ito yung huli kong question is, ano yung pinaka gusto mong concept dito na gusto mong i-drill sa lahat ng mga nakikinig or for anybody that you will encounter, ano yung pinaka concept ng book na to ni sabi nga ni Mitch Sayok alam na yun ni Jake Knapp and John Siratsky, ano yung main concept na yun? Kung mamimili ka lang sa dami nung diniscuss mo, ano yung main na paborito mo?
Thank you for asking that so that I can drill down on that. I think
Yes.
a very important na concept dito is really yung highlight. Kasi for me, yung concept they cited kasi 87 talaga na tips eh. Kaya actually mga tries ko yata binasa yung libro kasi syempre hindi mo naman ma-memorize lahat yun. Tsaka parang isa-isa mo siyang itatry mo to, kung hindi nag-work sa'yo, edi move on ka sa next. And then you actually ang for me maganda kasi sa na philosophy sa buhay, you can actually tweak it, 'di ba? It doesn't mean na kasi sinulat yan ng author, yun na yun. You can tweak it to what suits you. But for me, yung very important dito is yung highlight kasi 'di ba a lot of us we have family obligations, we have work colleague obligations, pero minsan nakakalimutan natin 'di ba yung nasa JD natin. For example, for those who are working for employers or doon naman sa mga SME business owners, minsan 'di ba parang may-ari ka ng isang negosyo, minsan yung mga lahat ng mga customer mo, mga complaints, parang yun na lang yung ginagawa mo. Pero 'di ba parang kailangan pala dapat nag-i-innovate ka ng produkto. 'Di ba dapat pala nag-create ka ng bagong product or ng bagong service, especially now. Kung nag-focus ka lang doon sa mga reklamo na may COVID, ganyan-ganyan, how will you actually come up with solutions if you don't devote time on the most important work? And nagsa-start yun in highlighting. Yung actually, hindi, it's not a new concept eh. Kaya sinight ko yung story, I'm sure Orly ito na-encounter mo to dati, yung concept nung yung may jar, di ba? And then it's considered your life. You have to put in the bowling ball or the golf balls first before the sand. Kasi pag inuna mo nilagay yung little stuff, the sand, wala nang room for the most important work. So for me yun, I hope you take charge of the time, especially ngayon na work from home tayo, I honestly see na madaming distractions, and then yun nga, ang isang challenge natin ngayon, since parang unlimited yung time. Kasi 'di ba, like I've been in meetings all the way to 9 p.m., 10 p.m. kasi parang nasa bahay, siguro iniisip ng mga tao nasa bahay lang naman tayo. So dire-diretso na to para matapos. But the next day, edi pagod ka the next day. Or minsan parang we don't take time to assess na tama ba yung strategy na pinili natin, 'di ba? Because we're too focused discussing the details. So for me, highlight, I think that's the most important part. You highlight what you want to do in your life, and that's actually how you can make time. And for me, lastly, to build on what yung na-take away mo, no, I really love that quote. I just want to emphasize by Tom Peters. Yung, if you want to know a person, look at their calendar. And I've read that maybe back in 2000, and I practiced that. I would know when a person is actually really devoted to their work based on the calendar that they have.
Actually, meron ka pa isang topic, isang keynote na I miss that guy, the author. Kasi yung kanyang book is Powership, yun yung mga nabasa ko. Si Alvin Toffler, di ba? Na
yes.
Sa mga nakikinig, ang sabi ni Jay kanina, kinote niya si Alvin Toffler, illiterate daw tayo pag we do not know how to learn, unlearn at relearn. So yun yung 21st century illiterate. So tayo mga nag-aral dati, I think I appreciated that. Kailangan ko even if I'm discussing this, talagang tinamaan mo ako sa puso eh. I need to unlearn and relearn. Lalo na tayo yung mga nakikinig, yung mga may pinagdadaanan ngayon, dahil po siguro luma na yung kaalaman natin, kaya nararamdaman natin yung lungkot at takot. Pero sabi nga ni Jay kanina, at sabi nag-keynote niya si Alvin Toffler, para mawala yung takot at lungkot at maging productive, highlight, tapos tanggalin natin yung pagiging illiterate natin by, again, learning, unlearning, at saka relearning. So, Jay, sabi nga ni Jovic, it's nice topic. Congratulations, Jay. Of course, Kita nyo naman ha, sobrang binigay ni Jay yung kanyang puso sa discussion. Sobra ako na-inspire. And having said that, I want to give the floor to Jay for your last words sa ating mga nakikinig before we end the show.
Okay. Thank you, Orly. First of all, I'd like to thank medyo marami tayong listeners from De La Salipa. Thank you, Ma'am Jovi, Ma'am Chris, and then Mitch. Mitch is one of my colleagues sa Nexus Innovation Labs. Thank you for making time for this presentation. And siguro to end lang, no, actually one of my, again, I mentioned this and I hope hindi kayo nakukulitan na paulit-ulit. One of my favorite books talaga to after I read it. And I actually, in one of my talks, I gave away copies of this book. I really bought, a few copies to give away because, ang nakita ko kasi sa atin, especially sa work life natin, and even sa school, di ba, minsan hindi tinuturo kasi yun yung how to be productive. Parang ito yung lesson plan, ito yung daily activities, pero minsan nakakalimutan na ano ba yung dapat i-focus talaga, di ba? Like number one, yung sa student, ano ba talaga dapat yung matutunan niya during the day? It's not, minsan kasi nagiging compliant siya, di ba, na we go through the motion na nakapag-recite, nakapag-quiz, nakapag-exam, but are they really learning? So the same with us actually sa real life. So for me, very important for us to have that attitude na we can be proactive, we can consciously take charge of our time. Ako, I would go against anyone. I would go on heated debate, with anyone who says na they don't have time, because we can actually take a step back and we highlight and then we focus and then you say no to all those other. It's hard, no? I'm not saying it's easy, but you say no to the other activities that will not actually contribute to achieving your goals. It works for organizations and it works for individuals. So again, I hope you learned a lot from this presentation, and I hope this will not be the last. Orly,
Definitely.
I read 100 books a year. I try my best to read a lot of books every year, but I think this is the very first time that publicly I shared. And when I was creating this the presentation slides, and by the way, I can share it with you. Just let us know where to send it, and I'll be happy to share the presentation slides. So again, maraming salamat po, and I hope you have a productive time today and this week, and you begin highlighting, laser focusing, energizing, and reflecting on your life. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Again, if you wanted to listen, actually nasa podcast din to sa Anchor FM. You can check it at Business Book Day Anchor FM. Kung gusto niyo lang, ayaw niyo makita yung mukha namin ni Jay. Ayun, sa podcast available to. Of course, we will also post the video. Kung pwede niyo i-replay to dun sa Facebook links na binigay namin, or pinopost din namin to sa YouTube. Kumbaga, ito yung isang knowledge na pag hindi mo man mabasa yung book, andyan si Jay, yung kanyang lecture about this very powerful book. Nandiyan at nare-reflect niyo, isa lang ang key learning ko as I listen to Jay. Gaya na sinasabi ko, yung mga nagbabasa, yung mga book lover, hindi sila yung kung ano yung sinabi ng author, sinusunod nila. They reflect on it, they critique it. Kaya si Jay kanina, binabanggit niya yung mga critical comments niya about the book. Kumbaga, meron siyang belief system na minsan nagko-conflict doon sa book. So, pinaglalaban niya yon. And then, pinagbubunggo niya yung dalawa. I think kung manalo yung belief mo pa rin, you don't really eat all what the book prescribes. So, ganun yung tamang way of learning and understanding the book. O sabi nga ni Jom Olamos, bagitin natin. Ayan, nag-email na si Jom Olemos. Thanks, Jay. Very important. Please share the slide. My email is, all right, Jocelyn, it will be granted by Jay, definitely. So again, it's time to end this show. Ayoko sana matapos dahil talagang mahaba yung discussion. Sabi nga ni Jay, to tell you honestly, kala niya 30 minutes is enough. Siyempre, if you're discussing one of the books that you love, definitely you have a lot of things to say and to share kasi we are book lovers. Not only book lovers, we are business book lovers. We wanted something na ginagamit namin yung knowledge ng mga authors to change our world for the better. And Jay Jaboneta is a great example of that, changing the Philippines, our society for the better. So, to end this, let me end this by saying always every week, a business book a week keeps your performance at peak. Have a great Monday and see you next week for another episode of Business Book Day. Again, maraming salamat. Of course, sabi ni Jay, kung maulit ba to, definitely 100 books ka. Boss Jay, ako hanggang 12 books. 12 books lang ako a year. Marami ko na 15 books a year. So grabe yung energy for reading. And banggitin natin si Chris kasi sa active si Ma'am Chris, no? In behalf of our team, Bixta,
Oo nga.
they would like to watch the video too. Congrats. Ay nako po. This is a permanent record already. You can share this gift of Jay Jaboneta to all the people that you believe will benefit from it. And pag sinabi ko all the people, lahat ng tao magbe-benefit dito, lalo na yung mga may pinagdadaanan or finding their way to be productive. Again, have a great Monday. It's time to end the show. Thank you, Jay, and bye. Salamat po.
Thank you, everyone. Happy Monday.